The massive chamber of the Galactic Council stretched wider than any Earth stadium. Beings from 1,000 worlds filled the floating seats that spiraled up toward a ceiling lost in shadows. At the center, the Council's most powerful members sat in judgment. Ambassador Chun floated in the human delegation pod, trying not to show how nervous she felt. Earth had only joined the Galactic Council 3 years ago. Most species still saw humans as primitive newcomers who had barely mastered faster-than-light travel. "The matter before us today concerns the Zorvax Empire," announced High Counselor Vexella. Her crystalline body chimed as she moved. "They have violated 17 peace treaties in the past solar cycle." The Zorvax ambassador, a creature that looked like a giant mantis made of metal, clicked its mandibles. "We take what is ours by right of strength. Weak species do not deserve their planets." Murmurs filled the chamber. Everyone knew the Zorvax had the strongest military in the galaxy. Their warships could turn entire moons to dust. "Who will stand against this aggression?" asked another counselor. Silence fell like a heavy blanket. No one wanted to face the Zorvax war machine. Ambassador Chen cleared her throat. "Earth will stand." Laughter erupted from 100 different species. The Zorvax ambassador's compound eyes glittered with amusement. "Humans," it chittered, "your species fears war. We have studied you. You make treaties and talk of peace. You have not fought a real war in decades." Chen smiled slightly. "You studied our diplomacy. Did you study our history? What history can matter? You have no plasma cannons that can crack a planet. No antimatervams. No psychic warriors. You are soft." "Perhaps," Chen said. "But we would like to try diplomatic solutions first." More laughter. The Zorvax ambassador stood, towering 20 feet tall. "You may try your words, human. When they fail, we will take your blue world as well." The council session ended with most species shaking their heads, or tentacles, or whatever they had. Humans were about to learn what real war meant. Chen returned to her quarters and immediately opened a secure channel to Earth. The face of General Morrison appeared on the screen. "How did it go?" he asked. "About as expected. They think we're weak. They think we fear war." Morrison's weathered face cracked into a grin. "Good. Let them think that. How long before diplomatic channels fail?" "The Zorvax gave us 1 week to convince them to stop their expansion." 1 week, Morrison repeated. "That should be enough time." "For what, General?" "To deploy the Marines." Chun felt a chill run down her spine. Not from fear, but from knowing what was about to happen. The galaxy thought humans feared war because they had only seen Earth's diplomatic face. They had never seen what humans could become when pushed too far. The Zorvax had studied human culture, but they had focused on the wrong parts. They saw the peace treaties and international cooperation. They missed the important details. They missed Thermopylae, where 300 warriors held off an empire. They missed Stalingrad, where a city refused to fall. They missed 100 other times when humans faced impossible odds and refused to surrender. Most importantly, they missed the fact that humans didn't fear war. They hated it. And there was a very important difference between the two. Over the next days, Chen went through the motions of diplomacy. She presented peace proposals that the Zorvax rejected with contempt. She offered trade agreements they laughed at. She suggested neutral zones they ignored. Meanwhile, in the Sol system, things were happening. The colony on Mars went dark to outside communication. The asteroid mining stations stopped transmitting. The space around Earth seemed quieter than usual. The other species didn't notice. Why would they? Humans were just scared primitives trying to delay the inevitable. On the 4th day, the Zorvax grew impatient. Their ambassador cornered Chun in the council corridors. "Your time runs out, human. Stop wasting hours with these games." "I need the full week," Chun insisted. "Please, we're trying to find a peaceful solution." The Zorvax leaned down, its breath smelling like hot metal. 3 more days. Then, we take the Kepler colonies. After that, Earth. It stalked away, leaving Chun alone. She touched her earpiece. "Did you hear that, General? Every word. 3 days will be enough. Are you sure about this plan?" Morrison's voice carried absolute confidence. "Ambassador, the galaxy is about to learn something important about humans. We don't fear war. We fear what we become during war. We fear it so much that we spent centuries learning to control it, to channel it, to perfect it. And the Marines are the tip of the spear. Zorvax wants to see human warfare. They're about to get a masterclass. Chin closed her eyes. The peaceful facade would drop soon. The galaxy would see what humans really were when threatened. Not a species that feared war, but one that had gotten so good at it that they chose peace whenever possible. The Zorvax had made a fatal error. They mistook restraint for weakness. They confused preference for peace with inability to wage war. They thought human soldiers were soft because they followed rules of engagement. They were about to meet the United States Marines. And Marines didn't just fight wars. They ended them. The countdown had begun. 3 days until the galaxy learned why humans tried so hard to avoid war. Not from fear, but from mercy. The Zorvax fleet emerged from hyperspace like predators breaking through water. 47 warships, each one large enough to carry a small city. Their hulls gleamed with energy shields that had never been breached. Their weapons could tear through most defenses like paper. Admiral Krixtar stood on the bridge of the flagship, mandibles clicking with satisfaction. The human colonies in the Kepler system lay before them like ripe fruit. Readings, Tactical Officer. 3 human vessels detected. Admiral. Primitive fusion drives. Minimal weaponry. They appear to be cargo ships. Krixtar laughed, a sound like grinding metal. They sent merchants to face a war fleet. Scan for their military vessels. Scanning. Admiral, I detect no military presence. Just the 3 cargo vessels. This was even easier than expected. The humans hadn't even tried to defend their colonies. Perhaps they had already accepted their fate. Open communications, Krixtar ordered. Let us hear their pleas for mercy. The view screen flickered to life, showing a human face. But it wasn't the terrified expression Krixtar expected. The human looked calm, bored even. He wore simple gray clothing with strange markings on the collar. This is Colonel Marcus Hayes, United States Marine Corps. You boys lost. Krixtar's translator struggled with a casual tone. Lost? We are the Zorvax battle fleet. We have come to claim these colonies. That's nice, Hayes said, sipping from a metal cup. Thing is, these folks here are under our protection. So you're going to want to turn around. The bridge erupted in laughter. This human, alone on a cargo ship, was telling the mighty Zorvax fleet to retreat? You amuse me, human. Tell me, where is your fleet? Where are your weapons? Hayes scratched his chin. Fleet's back home. As for weapons, he shrugged. Don't really need them. You face 47 warships with cargo vessels, and no weapons. Oh, these aren't cargo ships, Hayes said. They're dropships, and I've got weapons. Just not the kind you're thinking of. Before Krixtar could respond, proximity alarm screamed. Something had just appeared behind the cargo vessels. No, not appeared. Decloaked. Admiral, the tactical officer's voice cracked, reading massive energy signatures. The cargo ships they're not cargo ships. They're some kind of assault carriers. Impossible. Our sensors dash. We're looking for your kind of technology, Hayes interrupted. See, you folks build big, flashy ships with big, flashy guns. Real intimidating. Us humans, we went a different direction. The 3 vessels began to change. Armor plates slid aside, revealing launch bays. But instead of fighters or missiles, something else emerged. Small pods, thousands of them, spreading out like a cloud of insects. Marines, Hayes said simply. 40,000 of them. In Mark 7 combat armor. Each suit has enough firepower to level a city block. Shields that can take a direct hit from your main guns. And every single Marine is trained from age 18 to be a weapon all by themselves. Krixtar studied the readings in disbelief. The pods were already attaching to his ship's hulls. How had they moved so fast? You cannot breach our hulls, he stated. They are dash. A massive shudder ran through the flagship. Then another, and another. Molecular acid, Hayes explained. Eats through pretty much anything. Your shields stop energy weapons real good. But a Marine with a can of spray? Different story. On the tactical display, red dots began appearing inside the Zorvax ships. First dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. Order all crews to repel borders. Krixtar skreamit. Already trying, Admiral, an officer reported. But they're everywhere. They're not using corridors. They're making their own paths through the ships. Hayes leaned back in his chair. Colonel, maybe you should talk to your Marines. Tell them to stop. Could do that, Hayes mused. But, see, here's the thing about Marines. Once you point them at an objective and say, take it, they don't much like stopping halfway. It's a pride thing. The screams started coming through the communication system. Zorvak's warriors, the finest in the galaxy, were screaming. Not battle cries. Fear. What are they? A voice wailed. They won't die. I shot 120 times, and it kept coming. It ripped Vrax's arms off with its bare hands. Hayes winced. Yeah, that's Sergeant Johnson. He gets a bit enthusiastic. Lost his coffee maker in boot camp to a drill instructor. Never really got over it. Krixtar watched his tactical display in horror. His fleet, his invincible fleet, was being taken apart from the inside. The humans hadn't fired a single ship weapon. They hadn't needed to. The armory on Ship 7 just exploded. An officer reported, voice hollow. The humans, they turned our own weapons against us. That'd be Captain Chen's unit, Hayes nodded. Real creative, that bunch. They once took an enemy fortress using nothing but kitchen utensils and harsh language. This is impossible, Krixtar muttered. 40,000 cannot defeat 1,000,000 warriors. 1,000,000 warriors expecting ship-to-ship combat. Hayes corrected. You built your ships for fighting other ships. Big open corridors for moving troops. Central computer cores. Centralized life support. Real efficient design. Also real easy to take apart if you know what you're doing. And, buddy, Marines know what they're doing. Another shudder. The lights flickered. On the display, entire sections of the fleet were going dark. They're venting our atmosphere, someone whispered. Only in sections where your troops are concentrated, Hayes said. Marines can fight in vacuum just fine. Your boys, not so much. Krixtar slammed his claws on the command console. Why? Why do this? You could have met us in honorable ship combat. Hayes set down his coffee cup and leaned forward. For the first time, his easy manner disappeared. His eyes went cold. Honorable? You threatened human colonies. Families. Children. You want to know why we don't use big ships and energy weapons? Because those are for fighting military targets. Marines are for ending threats. Permanently. Please, Krixtar found himself saying. Make them stop. Magic word helps, Hayes said. But you also need to do something for me. Anything. First, you're going to withdraw from this system. Second, you're going to return to Council space and formally apologize for threatening Earth. Third, you're going to dismantle half your fleet as a show of good faith. Half our fleet? That's outrageous. Hayes picked up his cup again. All right, Johnson, looks like they need more convincing. Wait, we agree. We agree to everything. Smart choice. Hayes touched his earpiece. All units, command override Alpha. Stand down and return to ships. On the display, the red dots began moving back toward the hull breaches. Within minutes, the pods were detaching and returning to the dropships. Pleasure doing business with you, Hayes said. Oh, and Admiral, pass word to the Council. Humans don't fear war. We mastered it. Then we chose peace. Don't make us choose different. The transmission ended. Krixtar stood in his ruined bridge, surrounded by terrified officers and damage reports. 40,000 humans had crippled his entire fleet without losing a single soldier. Admiral, the navigation officer whispered. Course back to Council space. Maximum speed, Krixtar croaked. And sent a message ahead. Tell them the humans are not what we thought. As the battered Zorvak's fleet limped away, 3 dropships quietly returned to watching over the colonies. Inside, 40,000 Marines went back to their card games and workouts as if they hadn't just redefined galactic warfare. Back on Earth, General Morrison read Hayes' report and smiled. Phase 1 complete. The galaxy knows we can fight. Now let's see who really wants to test us. He looked at another screen showing alien news feeds. Already, word was spreading through Council space. The humans had defeated the mighty Zorvaks without firing a single ship weapon. They had used soldiers, but soldiers unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Soldiers who didn't just win battles. They made war itself terrifying. And this was just the Marines. The galaxy hadn't seen the Army yet, or the Navy SEALs, or any of the 100 other ways humans had learned to wage war over 6,000 years of practice. Morrison hoped they never would. But if anyone else threatened Earth, well, the Zorvax had gotten off easy. Mercy for their enemies. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so quiet. Every representative, from a methane-breathing Slarathi to the energy-based Luminants, stared at the main viewing screen. The footage from the Zorvax fleet played on repeat, showing 40,000 human Marines dismantling the galaxy's most feared military force like mechanics taking apart an engine. High Counselor Vexala's crystalline form flickered with uncertainty. Ambassador Chun, please explain what we just witnessed. Chun stood in the human delegation pod, her face neutral. A defensive action, High Counselor. The Zorvax threatened our colonies. We responded. The Antaran representatives' 6 eyes bulged. You crippled their entire fleet. With war those ground troops. Marines, Chun corrected. And, technically, we didn't fire a single shot from our ships. We simply boarded theirs and asked them to leave. Asked? Someone squeaked from the upper tiers. Forcefully, Chun admitted. The Zorvax ambassador, looking far less imposing than a week ago, chittered weakly. They're demons. They cannot be killed. They tore through blast doors with their hands. They survived in hard vacuum. They enjoyed it. That's unfair, Chun said. Marines don't enjoy combat. They're just very, very good at it. The council erupted in nervous chatter. For 300 years, space combat had followed predictable patterns. Big ships, big guns, energy shields, and plasma weapons. The humans had just thrown all of that out the airlock. This changes everything, muttered the Kashan delegate. If ground forces can defeat fleets, perhaps we should discuss the real issue, Chun interrupted. For 3 years, Earth has been treated as a junior member of this council. Our proposals for peaceful colonization were ignored. Our requests for fair trade were laughed at. You assumed, because we preferred diplomacy, that we were weak. She paused, looking around the chamber. We are not weak. We are careful. There's a difference. High Counselor Vex Allah chimed softly. Are you threatening the council? No, Chun said firmly. But we are done being dismissed. Earth has much to offer the galaxy. Technology, culture, medicine. But we will not be bullied. We will not be conquered. And anyone who tries will learn what the Zorvax learned. Which is, Chun smiled slightly, that humans didn't become the dominant species on a death world by being nice. We became dominant by being adaptable, by being clever, and, when necessary, by being the scariest thing in any room. Death world. The plenary ambassador's feathers ruffled. Earth is classified as a garden world. Peaceful. Safe. By whose standards? Chun asked. Earth has hurricanes that can level cities. Earthquakes that reshape continents. Predators that hunt in packs. Microscopic organisms that can kill in hours. Humans didn't just survive there. We thrived. We conquered every environment, from Arctic ice to burning deserts. We learned to fly without wings, swim without gills, even leave our planet without natural space travel. She gestured to the screen, still showing the Marine assault. And, along the way, we got very good at war. Too good. So good that we scared ourselves. We created rules, laws, treaties to hold ourselves back. Not because we feared other species, but because we feared what we were capable of. Your Marines. The Zorvax ambassador started, then stopped. Our volunteers, Chun finished. Every one of them chose that life. Chose to train until combat became instinct. Chose to modify their bodies with implants and enhancements. Chose to become living weapons. And they're not even our elite forces. A collective shudder went through the chamber. Not elite, someone whispered. Marines are our general-purpose fighters. Excellent, but not specialized. We have other units for specific tasks, such as... Chun shook her head. Hopefully, you'll never need to find out. The point is, Earth wants to be part of the galactic community. We want trade, cultural exchange, mutual growth. But we will not be victims. Not anymore. High Counselor Vex Allah consulted with her advisors through private channels. The debate was quick and unanimous. The Council recognizes Earth's military capabilities, she announced, and your status as a full member with all associated rights and protections. Thank you, Chen said. Now, I believe the Zorvax owe us an apology. The Zorvax ambassador approached the central platform. Its proud bearing was gone, replaced by something almost humble. On behalf of the Zorvax Empire, I apologize for threatening human colonies and Earth itself. We misjudged your species. We request formal peace negotiations. Accepted, Chun said. Earth harbors no grudges. We prefer making friends to making examples. Examples, the Zorvax asked. You're still alive, Chen pointed out. That's not a given when you threaten humans. Ask our history about total war sometime. Ask about Rome salting Carthage. Ask about nuclear weapons used on population centers. Ask about strategic bombing. We've done terrible things to survive. We try very hard not to do them anymore. The message was clear. Humans hadn't shown their full capability. They'd shown restraint. As the council session ended, representatives hurried to contact their home worlds. The balance of power had shifted in minutes. Not through massive fleets or superweapons, but through the revelation that humans had been holding back all along. In her private office, Chen met with General Morrison via secure connection. Well done, Ambassador. The Council's tone has certainly changed. Will it last? Chen asked. Depends. There are always those who think they're different, special, that they can succeed where others failed. And if they try? Morrison's smile was cold. Then, they learn what the Zorvax learned. Marines were a gentle introduction. We have Rangers who specialize in jungle warfare, SEALs for aquatic species, Delta Force for precision strikes. And that's just American forces. The Russians have Spetsnaz. The British have SAS. Every human nation refined warfare in their own way. A terrifying thought. It should be. We've had 6,000 years of recorded history to perfect killing each other, turning that expertise outward. Morrison shrugged. Child's play. Chen nodded slowly. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. Agreed. But, Ambassador, make sure they understand. The day humans stop being diplomats is the day the galaxy learns why we have so many words for war. The connection ended. Chen looked out her window at the alien city beyond, with its soaring towers and impossible architecture. Beautiful, peaceful, worth protecting. But if anyone threatened that peace, threatened Earth or human colonies, they would learn the truth. Humans didn't fear war. They had mastered it so completely that they chose peace instead. And breaking that peace was the last mistake any species would make. In the depths of space, 3 dropships continued their patrol around the Kepler colonies. Inside, Marines played cards, told jokes, and complained about the food. Just normal soldiers doing a normal job. The fact that they just revolutionized galactic warfare was already old news. They had training schedules to keep, skills to maintain. Because somewhere out there, someone might be stupid enough to threaten humanity again. And Marines stayed ready. Always ready. The galaxy had seen what 40,000 Marines could do. It prayed it would never see what 4 million could accomplish, or what humanity could do if truly pushed to total war. Some lessons only needed teaching once. The Zorvax had learned. Others would too, if necessary. But Earth hoped, truly hoped, that it wouldn't be. 6 months had passed since the Zorvax incident. The galaxy had settled into an uneasy new balance. Species that once dismissed humans now spoke carefully in council sessions. Trade agreements that had languished for years were suddenly approved. Earth's colonies expanded without harassment. But peace never lasts forever. The hegemony of Krothos had watched everything with calculating eyes. Unlike the Zorvax, they were not brute force conquerors. They were slavers, manipulators, experts in breaking civilizations from within. For 1,000 years, they had built their empire on the backs of lesser species. Lord Executor Thanes studied the human military reports from his throne of polished bone. Yes, the humans had impressive ground forces. But the hegemony didn't fight with armies. They fought with fear, propaganda, and targeted strikes. Send the message, he commanded. Begin Operation Silken Chain. Earth received the first reports 3 days later. Human merchant vessels had gone missing near hegemony space. Not destroyed, missing. No designados. No debris. Just gone. Then came the video messages. General Morrison watched the first transmission in the secure command center beneath Cheyenne Mountain. On screen, a human colonist knelt in chains, eyes hollow with fear. Behind him stood a Krathos overseer, its serpentine form coiled in satisfaction. Humans of Earth, the overseer hissed. Your people trespass in hegemony space. They're now property. Send more, and they too will serve. Resist, and watch them suffer. The video cut to scenes Morrison would never forget. Human prisoners laboring in mines. Children separated from parents. The systematic breaking of human spirit that the hegemony had perfected over centuries. How many? Morrison asked quietly. 800 from the merchant vessels, his aide reported. Another 3,000 from a colony transport that strayed off course. They're hitting civilians, sir. Soft targets. Morrison's jaw tightened. The Zorvacs had been warriors making war. This was something else. This was evil. Sir, the hegemony sent terms. They want Earth to provide 1 million humans annually as tribute. In exchange, they'll release the current prisoners. 1 million slaves? Morrison said flatly. They want us to feed them our own people. Ambassador Chun is requesting guidance. The council is watching to see how we respond. Morrison stood and walked to the situation map. The hegemony controlled 17 systems, with slave populations from dozens of species. They were careful, cunning. Their worlds were fortresses. Their ships flew in coordinated wolf packs. They had hostages. Contact Colonele. Tell him to prep his marines. Sir, the hostages will be rescued. Every last one. Morrison's eyes were stone. And then we're going to show the galaxy what happens when you enslave humans. The plan came together with terrifying efficiency. Humans had spent decades training for hostage rescue. From Entebbe to 100 other operations, they had refined the art of precision strikes. But this was bigger. This required something special. 3 weeks later, Krathos Prime received unexpected visitors. Not warships or dropships, but a single diplomatic shuttle. It landed in the capital with proper clearances, carrying Ambassador Chun and a small staff. Lord Executor Thane received them in his throne room, amused by their audacity. Come to negotiate your tribute, Ambassador. Chun stood calmly before him, briefcase in hand. In a manner of speaking, I've come to discuss terms. Our terms were clear. 1 million humans annually, where your captured people suffer. I have a counteroffer, Chun said. She opened her briefcase and removed a single photograph, placing on the ground before the throne. Thane's 4 eyes focused on the image. It showed a Krathos slave facility. Nothing unusual, except, when was this taken? He demanded. 40 minutes ago, Chun said. Impossible. That facility was in the heart of hegemony space, protected by layers of security. Chun placed another photo. Another facility. 38 minutes ago. Another. 36 minutes ago. And another. And another. 20 facilities across hegemony space, all photographed within the last hour. Ow! Thane hissed. You studied our Marines, Chun said. Big, loud, obvious. You prepared for them. You didn't prepare for the others. Others. Ghost Recon. Delta Force. Navy SEALs. SAS. Spetsnaz. Every human nation has shadow warriors. Soldiers trained to be invisible. To infiltrate impossible places. To wait for the perfect moment. They've been in position for 2 weeks. Thane's communicator screeched. Reports flooded in. Explosions at slave facilities. Guard posts going silent. Infrastructure failing. But no enemy forces spotted. Impossible, Thane muttered. Our security watches for armies, Chun interrupted. Not for individuals who can hold their breath for 20 minutes, slow their heartbeat to near death, and hide in plain sight. Soldiers who train from childhood to become living shadows. More alarms. The main power grid for the capital flickered. Right now, Chun continued, 4,000 special operations soldiers are dismantling your slave empire from inside. They're freeing prisoners, destroying control systems, and leaving very clear messages. She placed a final photo. It showed Thane's own bedroom, taken from inside. On his pillow lay a small card with 2 words, We're everywhere. The Lord Executor's scales rippled with sudden fear. If they could reach his private chambers. "What do you want?" he asked. "Every human prisoner released immediately. Every slave of every species in hegemony space freed. Your slave infrastructure demolished. And you personally standing before the Galactic Council to face judgment for crimes against sentient beings. And if I refuse?" Chen's expression never changed. "Then Phase 2 begins." Phase 2. So far, we've avoided casualties. Professional courtesy. Phase 2 removes that restriction. 4,000 ghosts become 4,000 assassins. Every hegemony official, every overseer, every enabler of your slave trade dies. Quietly, invisibly, in their beds, at their meals, in the middle of crowds. You'll never see them coming because humans spent 6,000 years perfecting the art of the unseen kill. Thane looked around his throne room, suddenly, seeing shadows everywhere. How many humans were watching right now? How many weapons were aimed at him? "You're bluffing. The Council would never approve Dash. The Council doesn't know," Chen said simply. "This is a unilateral human action. We don't ask permission to free slaves. We just do it." An explosion rocked the palace. "Close. Very close. Your ammunition depot," Chen noted. "Don't worry. We evacuated the slaves first. We're very thorough." Thane's options crumbled like sand. Fight an enemy he couldn't see? Watch his empire burn from within? Rule over ashes and shadows? "I accept your terms," he said. "Wise choice." Chen closed her briefcase. "Order the release. All slaves, all species, immediately." As Thane gave the commands, Chen activated her communicator. "All teams, Phase 1 complete. Move to extraction." Across 17 systems, shadows became soldiers became shadows again. They melted away like smoke, leaving behind freed slaves and broken chains. Within hours, millions of beings tasted freedom. The hegemony's 1,000-year empire collapsed in a single day, not through massive battles or fleet actions, but through the precise application of human special operations. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as the news spread. The humans hadn't just rescued their own people. They had freed everyone. They had dismantled an entire slave empire without a single fleet engagement. Back on Earth, Morrison received the final reports. 0 human casualties. All prisoners recovered. The hegemony effectively ended. "Sir," his aide said quietly, "the other species are asking, how? How do we put soldiers on 17 worlds without anyone noticing?" Morrison smiled. "Let them wonder. Fear of the unknown is more effective than any demonstration. They've seen our Marines. Now they know we have ghosts. Let them imagine what else we're capable of." The message was clear across the galaxy. Threaten humans openly, face the Marines. Threaten them with subterfuge, face the shadows. Either way, you face defeat. Humanity had shown 2 faces of war. The hammer and the scalpel. Both equally effective. Both equally terrifying. And still, the galaxy sensed this wasn't everything. The humans were still holding back. Still showing restraint. The wise species increased trade with Earth and treated human colonies with respect. The foolish ones, well, there were always foolish ones. But their numbers were decreasing rapidly. The Galactic Council had called an emergency session. For the first time in its 1,000-year history, every single member species was present. Even the isolationist void dwellers had sent representatives. The reason stood at the center of the chamber. Not the human ambassador, but General Morrison himself. He had come in person to address what the Council termed the human question. High Counselor Vexala's crystalline form pulsed with nervous energy. "General Morrison, the Council has growing concerns about humanity's military capabilities." "Oh." Morrison's weathered face showed polite interest. "In 1 year, your species has defeated the Zorvax Empire's fleet and dismantled the hegemony of Krothos. Both were considered military impossibilities. Both threatened innocent lives," Morrison replied. "We responded appropriately." "Appropriately?" The Sanctari delegate's wings fluttered anxiously. "You revolutionized warfare twice. First with mass infantry deployment against ships, then with invisible soldiers striking across 17 worlds simultaneously. The galaxy needs to know, what else are you capable of? Morrison was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of history. Everything, he said simply. The chamber fell silent. Let me tell you about humans, Morrison continued. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every day. Predators, diseases, disasters. We survived by becoming the most adaptable species our planet had ever seen. But our greatest threat wasn't nature. It was each other. He gestured to the historical display. 6,000 years of recorded warfare. Bronze spears to nuclear weapons. We've killed each other with rocks, blades, bullets, chemicals, biologicals, atomics, and things that make those look primitive. We've fought in deserts, jungles, cities, underwater, underground, in the air, and now in space. Images flashed by. Ancient battles, modern conflicts, weapons that defied easy understanding. We created submarines to fight beneath the oceans. Aircraft to rain death from above. Satellites to see everything. Drones to strike without warning. Cyber weapons to cripple without touching. We split the atom and turned it into both power and annihilation. But surely, the Etherian ambassador interjected, you've moved beyond such barbarism. Morrison laughed, but there was no humor in it. Moved beyond? No. We've refined it, perfected it, made it into science and art combined. Every human military studies our entire history of warfare. We learn from every victory, every defeat, every atrocity. He pulled up a new display. Would you like to know what Earth's full military looks like? Not just Marines or Special Forces. Without waiting for an answer, he continued. 7 billion humans. Of those, 200 million are military trained. Not active duty, trained. Veterans, reserves, militia, citizens who can become soldiers in days if needed. 200 million, someone gasped. Every major nation maintains standing armies. Ground forces that make our marine deployment look like a scouting party. Air forces with craft you haven't seen because they've never left Earth's atmosphere. Naval forces, yes, we still have water navies. Submarine fleets that could hide in your oceans for years. But space combat, we've been thinking about space combat since before we had space travel, Morrison interrupted. Every science fiction story, every war game, every simulation. We've theorized, planned, and prepared for battles in zero gravity, asteroid fields, gas giants, and dimensions you haven't discovered yet. He brought up technical specifications that made the council members recoil. Kinetic orbital bombardment, dropping metal rods from orbit that hit with the force of nuclear weapons. No radiation, no defense, just pure physics. We call them rods from God. Particle beam weapons that ignore shields. Nanomachine swarms that consume metal at the molecular level. Biological weapons tailored to specific species. Computer viruses that could lobotomize AI systems. And, yes, we still have nuclear weapons. Thousands of them. Because humans never throw away a working weapon. This is monstrous, the plenary delegate whispered. Yes, Morrison agreed. It is. That's why we work so hard for peace. We know what we're capable of. We've seen what total war looks like. Cities burned to ash. Entire populations erased. Generations poisoned by our weapons. We've done it all to each other. He looked around the chamber. You want to know what else we're capable of? The answer is anything. Everything. We have think tanks full of people whose only job is imagining new ways to wage war. We have treaties limiting weapons so horrible that using them is considered worse than losing. We have contingency plans for invasions by species we haven't even met yet. You're trying to frighten us, accused the Zorvax ambassador. No, Morrison said firmly. I'm trying to warn you. Earth wants peace. We want trade, friendship, mutual growth. But we are not naive. We know that somewhere out there is a species that will see our preference for peace as weakness. When they come, we'll be ready. And if that species is in this room? Vexala asked carefully. Morrison smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. Then, they've already lost. Because I guarantee you, whatever attack you're planning, we've already planned for it. Whatever weapon you're building, we've theorized a counter. Whatever strategy you're developing, some human somewhere has already written a paper on defeating it. He straightened his uniform. We are a species that weaponized splitting atoms within years of discovering it was possible. We went from first flight to landing on our moon in 66 years. We turned computer networks into weapons while most species were still using them for math. We are very, very good at war. Too good, Morrison added quietly. That's why our greatest enemy has always been ourselves. That's why we have rules of engagement, Geneva Conventions, laws of war. Not to protect our enemies, to protect us from ourselves. To keep us human instead of becoming monsters. The council absorbed this in stunned silence. But, make no mistake, Morrison continued. Push us far enough, and those rules disappear. Threaten our existence, and you'll see total war. No rules, no limits, no mercy. The kind of war that ends with one species standing on the ashes of another. You would commit genocide? Vexala asked, horrified. We have the capability, Morrison said simply. We choose not to use it. That choice is what makes us civilized. But it is a choice, and choices can change. He turned to face the full council. So here's my message to all of you. Trade with us. Be our friends. Join us in exploring the galaxy. Help us become better than we are. Because the alternative, making us your enemy, is the last mistake you'll ever make. Is that a threat, General? It's a promise. Humans excel at war because we've had so much practice. We're offering to excel at peace instead. Take the offer, because you really don't want to see what happens when 7 billion humans unite against a common enemy. We've conquered every environment on our planet. We've defeated every challenge nature threw at us. We've survived ourselves. Do you really want to be next? The chamber remained silent. Morrison nodded once and turned to leave. At the door, he paused. Oh, one more thing. Everything I've told you, it's public knowledge on Earth. Things anyone can learn in our schools. Imagine what we keep classified. He left the chamber to absolute silence. The implications hung in the air like smoke. Humans didn't just have Marines. They didn't just have special forces. They had an entire species evolved for warfare, choosing peace only through conscious effort. Later, in closed sessions, the Council voted unanimously on several resolutions. Full trade rights for Earth, protected status for all human colonies, and an unspoken agreement. Never, ever give humanity a reason to stop choosing peace. On Earth, Morrison returned to his command center to find his staff celebrating. Sir, the Council approved everything. Full membership, trade rights, the works. Morrison nodded. Good. Maybe we can finally focus on exploring instead of fighting. Do you think the speech was too much? His aide asked. Morrison looked at the stars through the window. They needed to understand. We're not just another species with fancy weapons. We're a species that survived itself. That makes us either the best neighbors you could have, or the worst enemies you could imagine. Which are we, sir? Morrison smiled, and this time was genuine. That's up to them. But I know which one I'm hoping for. I've seen enough war for a dozen lifetimes. Time to see what humans could do with peace. Across the galaxy, species studied Earth with new eyes. Not as weak newcomers, but as sleeping giants who chose to dream of peace. The wise ones sent trade delegations and cultural exchanges. The foolish ones, well, there were fewer foolish ones these days. Humanity had made its point. They didn't fear war. They had mastered it so completely that they chose peace instead. And breaking that peace would wake something the galaxy was better off never seeing. The age of human expansion had begun, not through conquest, but through respect. Not through weapons, but through the fear of what those weapons represented. Sometimes, the greatest victory is the war you never have to fight. Humanity had won without firing a shot. The perfect victory for the perfect warriors. And in the depths of space, human ships spread out among the stars, carrying traders instead of soldiers, diplomats instead of Marines. But always, always ready. Because humans knew the greatest truth of warfare. Si vis pacem, para bellum. If you want peace, prepare for war. They were prepared. The galaxy knew it. And that knowledge brought peace.